Good morning, and a very happy Friday to everyone that is joining us today. My name is Kerry Dupree, and I'm very excited to be with you here live at the Waterhole on this very lovely Friday morning. We have started the day at Lintore with a grey heron. Very nice close-up shot of this grey heron that looks like he's grooming himself, and if I'm not mistaken, this looks like the branch that we often see our little lilac-breasted roller. So interesting to see another little or large bird that is also taking advantage of this nice little perch. Just a reminder, folks, that this is a live and interactive experience, so please feel free to send through those questions and comments. We're going to have a bit of a birding day today. We're not going to go crazy and break any records, but yeah, it'll be nice to appreciate and look out for any of these interesting birds that we have at our different locations and chat a bit about them. Got some comments coming through already. Hannah says we are hoping we get lots of predator action today. Yes, Hannah, always exciting to see some predator action. Haven't seen any predators for a while, so that would be pretty epic to find some predators out there today. Laurie says, wish we could visit all these waterholes. So Laurie, I think that would be a pretty cool road trip. Actually, imagine if you went on a road trip to go and see all of the Africam cameras across Africa at each and every single different location. That would be quite an epic mission, I think. You could have a little checklist. Of course, you'd have to do it in a lovely old vintage vehicle like a Land Rover and go for an amazing adventure visiting all of these incredible locations that we have the privilege of seeing here on Africam. This looks like, I would say, a sub-adult grey heron. He's very intently grooming himself. So most birds, or pretty much all birds except for birds that spend a lot of time in the water, like your cormorants and your darters, other birds will have what is known as an oil preen gland based at the base of their tail. Oh, I think he's gonna have a stretch. Look at that. Isn't this a cool view of this grey heron? Don't often see them from this angle, but yeah, so they'll use this oil preen gland in order to keep their feathers in good condition. So while they're cleaning and grooming themselves, they'll often try to extract some oil from that gland and coat it across their feathers, and that helps to keep their feathers in tip-top shape. A comment from Duncan. Duncan says, hello Kerry, how are you doing? Duncan, I am doing fabulously today. I just had a lovely breakfast and a cappuccino. I'd love to know what snacks our viewers have decided to have a munch on during the show, or maybe just before the show started. I often quickly go and have a cup of coffee before Live at the Waterhole starts. Maybe another little snack. So let me know what snacks you have with you today. Man Jex sent through a comment. Sorry folks, we seem to have lost our Oldonyo feed, but we have come to check in at Oldonyo and see what's happening. Of course, we've got some very big elephant bulls at the waterhole that are hogging the waterhole as per usual, and the zebra are patiently waiting by for their opportunity to come down for a drink. So Manjex says, beautiful bird. Yes, Manjex. It's amazing when you take a closer look at some of these birds, you really notice how beautiful they are. Our little grey heron to start off the day. Looks like another busy day here at the waterhole, especially with all these big elephant boys. Essie has sent through a comment. Do elephant and zebra migrate together across drought plains? So no, Essie, elephant and zebra generally don't migrate together. You can find, though, on the other hand, zebra and wildebeest. So zebra and your wildebeest, or gnu, often migrate in massive herds across Kenya into Tanzania and back from Tanzania into Kenya. So during this time of the year, most of the wildebeest will probably be in Tanzania. They will go and have their calving period in Tanzania, and then they move back into Kenya probably after the calving period, maybe in April, May next year. You also get big movements of zebra and wildebeest in Botswana as well. The purpose of their migration is to find areas with more food and water in the dry season. Naledi is asking, do both handle heat with mud and dust tricks? So Naledi, elephant are more prone to mud bathing, but you can also find elephants dust bathing as well. We often see elephants dust bathing over in Tembe Elephant Park. If they can find some nice soft sand in the shade of a tree, you can find elephants dust bathing. Zebra, on the other hand, will most likely just sand bath. I have never seen a zebra mud bathing. It's mostly your thick-skinned mammals that will mud bath. So your antelope, the way that they'll cool themselves down, besides going into the shade, is by sand bathing, especially in the late hours of the afternoon. Same as birds. You often find birds on the road, like your mouse birds, hornbills. A lot of bird species will dust bath as well. And this is a great way to remove any excess oil from that oil preen gland we spoke about earlier, as well as parasites. A good way to get rid of any parasites they might be harboring on their fur. These poor zebra are patiently trying to come in for a drink. So zebra are a little bit more confident than other species that would come down to the waterhole while elephants are around. So your eland, for example, eland and giraffe are a little bit more skeptical. They might patiently wait for the elephants to move off before coming down for a drink, whereas elephant and zebra are known to be waterhole bullies. They often chase other species away. Alright folks, let's head across to one of our other locations, see what else is happening out there today. Oh, have a look what we have here, folks. We have a bee eater. So we're also here in Finch in Kenya, and we've got a very interesting bee eater. This will probably be a bee eater lifer for me. I am not too sure what this bee eater is. Hopefully if he turns around we can get a better view of him. Let's have a look. I'm just going to pull up my Merlin bird app and have a look, see what bee eater this could be. I haven't been to this location before in Kenya, so it's always exciting to go to a new location that you haven't seen. What bee eater is this? There are lots of different kind of bee eater species in Kenya that might be new to you. I know they do have the white-throated bee eater, but this doesn't quite have the right colors. Maybe your blue-cheeked bee eater. Let's have a look at the distribution. So when you're having a look for new bird species, it's always a good idea to just check the distribution of your specific bee eaters. There's also lots of juvenile birds around at the moment. So let's have a look at swallow-tailed bee eater. It could be a swallow-tailed bee eater. My guess was either blue-cheeked bee eater or could be swallow-tailed bee eater. Let's have a look at that. The tail, see what could this bee eater be. It looks about the right size for a swallow-tailed bee eater, so kind of use a process of elimination when identifying these different birds, especially if you don't know what birds they could be. Hello little guy. Now we've got lots of carmine bee eaters that are currently in Zimbabwe at the moment, nesting in the Zambezi riverbanks. So let's have a look. What could he be? Swallow-tailed bee eater is probably hawking for insects, looking to see if you can find any insects. So I'm looking at swallow-tailed bee eater, and yes, it could be possibly be a juvenile swallow-tailed bee eater. It does have a little bit of yellow on the underside of its bill. So swallowtail bee-eater are a medium-sized bee-eater with a deeply forked tail. So let's have a look at that forked tail again. When these specific individuals are younger, they might not be in their full breeding plumage. I'm not seeing his forked tail just yet, but I have a picture of a juvenile bee-eater, swallowtail bee-eater, that does not quite have his fork tail shaped well. These bee-eaters will sit up on a little branch and they'll hawk for insects. The minute they catch an insect on the wing, especially a bee, they'll normally thrash off the stinger so they don't swallow that stinger. Got some comments coming through here. Stella says, do they have specific hunting grounds? So Stella, normally these bee eaters, they can be quite territorial, so you can often see them on the same branches, hunting and hawking from the same branches. So if you're looking to get into photography, if you find a bee eater on a branch, even if it flies away, if you normally sit patiently, you can wait for the bee eater to come back. You might get a nice dramatic shot of a bee eater coming into land. Got another comment from Duncan. Duncan says, there are a bizarre question. Someone asked during the sunrise safari, which body organ is only found in human beings and not in any other animal? Duncan, you're going to have to give me a hand on this one, because my brain is exploding from all the questions that have been coming my way this week. I do appreciate all the questions and comments, but Duncan, you're going to have to spill the beans on this one, because I have no idea. Duncan is asking which body organ is found in human beings and not in any other animal. I'm going to have to think about that one very, very deeply. So Django is asking, how do juveniles learn aerial chasing tricks? So Django, just like with any creature, juveniles will learn from their parents. So they'll watch and monitor how their parents hunt, how their parents feed, and then with their natural instincts of being able to fly, that's when they can also develop their hunting ability. But it does take quite a bit of time. Some of these bee eaters can take a few months before they're actually able to catch food for themselves. So they need to be very fast as well as very agile. So special to have a new bee eater species that we haven't seen before. I don't remember the last time I saw a swallow-tailed bee eater. Thanks, Mika, for the help on that ID there. I think that we do have a pair of swallow-tailed bee eaters in Mabula. I have not seen them. I know Amy knows where they hang out. She's seen them a couple of times, and I think Kelly's also seen them, but I have not seen those swallow-tailed bee eaters over in Mabula. So apparently the answer to our rather bizarre question from Duncan about what body part does a human have that no other creature has, and apparently the answer is a chin. We suggest, struggle to believe, but apparently we're the only animals with a true chin. That is rather interesting. Thank you very much for that, Duncan. Good brain teaser for the day. Peter says, what a beautiful little bird. So yes, Peter, this is a beautiful little bird. Often the swallow-tailed bee-eater can be confused with the blue-cheeked bee-eater as well as the olive bee-eater. But with a lot of these bee-eaters, if you do get confused, because I mean juveniles also have interesting coloration that can really throw you off, but if you do get slightly confused, you can always look and find their distribution as well as their habitat. What habitat do they occur in might also help to give you an answer as to which species it is. They can be found across quite a variety of habitats, from semi-desert scrub to savannas and forest edges. And as we can see right here, they're often perched out in a little open area, which is a great vantage point for them to search and look for food. I've got the call here of the swallow-tailed bee-eater that I will play for you. Very happy little chirping sound. Sorry, I hope that wasn't too loud, but a very cute little call of this swallow-tailed bee-eater. I'm just looking at the map here, and it does occur in Kenya as well as in parts of Tanzania, the swallow-tailed bee-eater. We do get them in southern Africa, so it's very common across southern Africa, parts of South Africa, most of Botswana, throughout Zimbabwe. So it is very common to see this swallow-tailed bee-eater throughout parts of Africa. They are one of my favorite birds. They're so bright and colorful. Have a look, he's checking out to see if there are any predators out there. I'm trying to complete the list of bee-eaters. I would like to be able to see all the bee-eaters in Africa. I'm still left with a couple, but I have seen most of these bee-eaters in Africa. I love the forest bee-eater species, your blue-headed bee-eater, as well as your black bee-eater. Shirley is commenting, are these little guys territorial? So yes, Shirley, I would say they're territorial, not in the fact of defending their territory from other species, but males will vocalize. As I mentioned, they have their favorite little perches that they like to sit up on, and males will vocalize so that other males can hear they're in the area, but they don't ferociously defend their territories like some bird species like your korhans and your bustards, for example. Look at this little guy. Looks like quite a windy day. He's really struggling to keep on that branch. There's so many bee-eaters out there. I'd love to hear from our viewers, which is your favorite bee-eater species? I struggle to be able to choose, but if I had to choose one, it would probably be the carmine bee-eater. So you get two different subspecies of carmine bee-eaters, a northern carmine bee-eater and a southern carmine bee-eater. So I'm going to choose my favorite bee-eater species is the carmine bee-eater. Love to hear from the rest of you to see which bee-eater species is your favorite. Alrighty folks, let's head across to Jack's camp, see what else is happening out there today. Oh, have a look here. We've got lots of birds. We've got some blacksmith lapwings, and what are these other birds down here? Are they sandpipers? Are they green shanks? They look like it is another very windy here in Jack's camp over at Mahadi Pans. Perfect little environment for lots of different birds. So Charlie is asking a question about birds. Charlie's asking, do ground birds develop quicker than arboreal birds? So yes, Charlie, you get precocial bird species and arboreal bird species. So precocial bird species are very quick in their development. They normally hatch already able to move, walk, they have feathers, they can pretty much already move around, very agile, whereas your arboreal bird species are normally your tree nesting bird species, which hatch completely naked, no feathers, they're blind, and they're completely defenseless and helpless. And these species, the terrestrial or arboreal bird species, then take a longer time to be able to move, develop their feathers. They're completely reliant on their adults. So yeah, these ground dwelling birds are designed to be able to move around a lot quicker because they nest on the ground. So there's lots of predators out there that would like to hunt and catch these particular birds. Just looking to see what birds these are. If you have a great pair of binoculars, this is when it would be a good time to have a look-see. Don't know. Oop, we've got a black wing stilt just came to chase them. It's definitely a wading bird. If we have any viewers that have an idea, let's have a look-see. Why is a stilt chasing these sandpipers? Rather strange. So I'm going to guess these are probably green sandpipers. Stilt is not a happy chappy. black-winged stilts are much taller than these smaller bird species. So again, any species that might cause a threat or competition when it comes to feeding, that would be a great reason that the sandpipers, that the black-winged stilts is probably chasing these sandpipers. So Frank, yes, there are lots of different bee eaters in Africa, at least 8 different species that we get. And I'd love to hear from our viewers, what is your favorite bee eater species in Africa? Send through those comments for us. Have a look at these guys. You can see they're obviously very cold. It's a very wet morning. So I'm guessing these are green sandpipers, folks. If anyone would like to send through an ID suggestion, please also feel free to send them through. But yeah, the bills are quite long and black. They do have blackish green legs and kind of mottledy and spotted on the backs of their wings, and then white underbelly. So it could be the green sandpiper. The common sandpiper is another sandpiper we could look for, but I think these are a bit small for common sandpipers. And often common sandpipers, their legs are much shorter and they don't have as much mottling on the backs of their wings. These sandpipers are famously known for bobbing their tails quite nervously. They are quite restricted to water, so they'll often climb these very muddy, slopey areas in order to get to water. They breed in clearings as well as marshy areas. Alrighty folks, let's head across to Wangi, Zimbabwe and see what large birds are waiting for us in Wangi National Park. We've got some marabou storks. Having a great birding day so far. Lots of interesting birds out and about. So we've got some marabou storks. We've also got 2 black-winged stilts, as well as some black black-smith lapwings. Oh, quite tongue-tying, some of these bird names. Marabou storks.
Oh, yes, there's a leopard. I've got a leopard here. My name is Cedric, and behind the camera with me we've got Muscles and Paul. Well, it is Feline Friday.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
or pick or hunt for insects, worms, larvae from the ground, and they'll normally use a foot trembling method in order to flush insects out of the grass. They'll often probe into soft ground too with their feet to see if there's any sort of little grubs or insects that they could use or feed on. Look at these marabou storks. So around Wangi National Park you get lots of marabous, especially this pan seems to be a favorite spot for the marabou storks to hang out. They often nest in the trees close by to this waterhole, and I think at least every single day you can normally see at least 3 to 15 individuals. They also nest in this area. So marabou storks are one of Africa's largest storks. They have a wingspan of about 3 to 3.2, 3.3 meters. They're often called the Undertaker bird due to its very dark cloak. Have a look at those very dark wings of theirs, and hunched back pose or posture that they normally stand in. So even though they're considered scavenging birds, you can see them hunting from time to time. I've seen them hunting in puddles of water for fish. So during the dry season, when these puddles shrink, marabous will often go through those puddles, try to catch fish and insects. Alrighty folks, let's head across to Botswana and see what's happening in the basin. Ooh, wow, we are really having a great day for birding today. Look what we have here. We've got 2 saddle-billed storks. Looks like they are feeding. So saddle-bill storks normally occur solitary or in pairs. Again, it's another bird species that is quite endangered. I know in Kruger National Park there's some signs as you go in at the information desks that if you see any of these storks to report the sightings, because they're quite rare. Sorry folks, our feed was a little bit unstable with our saddle-bill storks there, but we've come back to our marabou storks to see what they are up to. We've got a question from Kai. Kai was asking, can these storks hunt? So Kai, I hope I answered your question already about these marabou storks, that they can actually hunt for themselves. They're not necessarily only scavengers, but they can search for food and hunt by themselves. So it's also interesting if you have a look at their legs. They're very white, so they defecate on their legs, which is this white substance, white uric acid, and that helps to 1, cool their legs down, and 2, forms a bit of a protective layer against their legs when they are scavenging from bacteria. So Lindsay's asking a question, what behaviors or features distinguish saddle-bill storks from similar large stork species such as marabou storks or yellow-bill storks? So Lindsay, marabou storks, obviously we were talking about that they can hunt, but they're mostly known for their scavenging behavior, whereas your yellow-bill storks and saddle-bill storks have a completely different diet. So they'll feed more on little insects, anything in the grass. They have quite a varied diet, insects and seeds. While they move through these open grassland areas, they don't necessarily scavenge. I don't think I've ever seen a saddle-bill stork scavenge, but I think it's all depending on their diet. Marabous can have quite interesting diet. They eat all kinds of very strange things, especially stomach content too. Like I often see these marabou storks fighting and feeding on intestines and stomach contents, whatever they can find that they can eat, they will have a chance to eat, but they're mostly a carnivorous bird. Mostly their kind of their structure, their feathers also very different. Yeah, marabous are very strange creatures, I must say. The saddle-bill storks, we mentioned, are mostly solitary, so you can also see a difference in the social structure. Marabous are mostly residents, and they don't migrate, unlike your saddlebill storks and your yellowbill storks. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to the Serengeti and see what other animals are out there today. Oh, have a look what we have here. A nice herd of Difasa waterbuck over in the Serengeti in Tanzania. We were just chatting about migrations of those huge migration herds moving from the Masai Mara into the Serengeti, from Kenya into Tanzania. These waterbuck are more resident species. They don't have to worry about migrating, which is great for them. Looks like lots of female and 2 young males. Some comments coming through. Main Event said, hi Kerry, that's a lovely view of birds. Yes, Main Event, we've had some really good birding so far today. And Jerome is asking a question, do long-term monogamous pairs have to display and court every time they mate? So very good question, Jerome. And yes, I feel like most long-term monogamous bird species do mate and court every year. So I was just chatting about the marabou storks and how they nest around Wangi Safari Lodge, and every year around the same time, I want to say it's around March, April, you'll often see the males displaying. They'll stand up on a bush and they start jumping and displaying for the females. Obviously with your southern ground hornbills, they will also have the same behavior. They will take a little proposal gift to their female. They'll collect as many little creatures as they can, little mice, skinks, lizards, snakes, and take a little parcel, like a little gift, to the female to kind of rekindle their love and their connection. Same as with the hornbill species, your yellow-billed hornbills and your red-billed hornbills. It's lovely to see these Difasa waterbuck. Oh, and a zebra. Hello. So the difference between your common waterbuck and your Difasa waterbuck, so you do get common waterbuck up in East Africa. Apologies folks, there's someone on a rather loud motorbike outside. So your common waterbuck and Difasa waterbuck, common waterbuck obviously have that very prominent white ring on their bottoms, whereas the Difasa waterbuck, they still have a white patch, but they are lacking of that prominent white toilet seat ring. Difasa waterbuck also have a bit more of a darkish reddish coat, but otherwise they occur in very similar habitats. Their social structure is mostly the same. Males have long horns in both species, females have no horns. Zebra are all coming down, a nice little harem of zebra coming down for their mid-morning drink. Looks like quite a hot day here in Serengeti. I think they still need to receive a bit of rainfall. They haven't received much rain in this area. It's still looking quite dry, quite barren. I feel like there must be a nice little drainage line close by for these waterbuck to go and spend their days. Oh, look at these young waterbuck in the water here. Good way for them to cool themselves down, especially on a hot day in the African bush. This would make quite a lovely photo if you were sitting in this hide right now of all these zebra lined up having their drink together. This would be a perfect place for us to get some of our corons. Might be in this area. Oh, I think we have a helmeted guinea fowl just off to the left of this waterbuck out of the water there. There's some bird that's moving through this rocky area. Probably get lots of guinea fowl and as well as your spur fowl coming for a drink here. Alrighty folks, seems like our marabou storks are up to something. Let's go and see what those marabou storks are doing. So have a look here. I was just chatting about the behavior of these marabou storks, and during their mating display the males will open their wings up like this and bounce around on the top of a high elevated branch. But in this case they're most likely sunning themselves. Marabou storks are not known for being the cleanest creatures out there, but it is good for them to get some sunshine on those wings of theirs, especially with all the rainfall that we've been having. I love it in the early mornings once you've had a few days of constant rain. You see all the birds, vultures, marabou storks will be opening their wings, sunning themselves. The vervet monkeys will also be at the tops of the trees, almost praying to the sun gods to bless us with some sunshine so that they can dry off after a few days of being constantly wet. See the appearance of these marabou storks. They've got those interesting pink gular pouches on their necks, which is all possibly used as part of their mating display in order to attract the female. So it's not a food storage pouch. They're not like squirrels. They don't store food in that pouch of theirs, but it's mostly used for mating display. And there's some theory that it could be used for when they are flying at very high altitudes as well. I'm not too sure on that theory, but definitely the more dominant males become very red in that throat pouch of theirs. So Daisy has sent through a comment about our waterbuck. Daisy says Defasa comes from the Amharic word meaning tired or fatigued, reflecting the animal's often sedentary water associated lifestyle. So apparently it's an Ethiopian language, Amharic. Never heard of this language, Daisy, so thank you very much for that. And yes, now that you mention it, Daisy, waterbuck do sort of have a very dopey, donkey-like look. They do look quite sleepy or snoozy a lot of the time, and I feel like this does quite well. It does describe well the behavior or lifestyle of these waterbucks. So thank you very much for that, Daisy. I had no idea. Waterbuck are very famously known for hanging out in these swampy or thick grassy areas. They wouldn't say they're as active as some antelope species. Wow, look at that. So just talking about the incredible wingspan of these marabou storks, over 3 meters, which is a very, very long, wide wingspan for these birds. When they're taking off and flying, you can actually hear the sound of their wings from quite a distance. Dylan is asking a question: can they steal prey from bigger predators? So Dylan, marabou storks, I'd say, are probably at the top of the pecking order amongst the vulture society. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to Safari Hook and see what other birds we can find out there today. Oh, we've got some teals here. These red-billed teals have been resident at this pan the last week. Always lovely to see our little red-billed teals. I love these guys. Aren't they so cool? Look at this, the color on their faces. They've got that very bright, prominent red bill and that two-tone color on their faces. A bit of a light color, a bit of dark color, brown on their top of their head there. They're grooming themselves as well. I always wonder, this doesn't seem to be much food for these teals in this pan, but if they've been here for so long, I'm sure they are able to find food. They wouldn't stay here if there wasn't food. So it's amazing to see out there in Namibia, there's some areas you think there's no way a creature or anything could live in these areas, but they do find food somehow. So these ducks, we've been seeing them dabbling throughout the week, which is a feeding strategy. They feed at the surface or tipping forward and having their little feet up in the air. It's also a method of diving into the water to look for food. So they'll often feed in very shallow waters at dawn and dusk when the water is calm and gentle. They take off quickly and direct into an area to find some food. So they'll feed on seeds as well as aquatic plants and algae, any insects that might be on the water, small crustaceans. So I just don't understand how they can still be here. It just doesn't seem like there's much food, but they must find enough food if they're still around. Usually these ducks will form monogamous pairs. They'll nest somewhere close to the water in very hidden grass or reeds. A clutch of eggs can consist of anything between 6 to 12 eggs. The ducklings are normally precocial, so as we spoke about, as soon as they hatch from the egg, they already have feathers, just like Egyptian geese. They're already moving around, and they start following their parents, and they very quickly are able to start feeding as well. The male will stay quite close to the female while she leads these chicks to the water in order to protect them. Look at these guys. The one on the right is busy cleaning himself. This individual on the left is taking a bit of a nap. So despite being so common, their red bills do make them one of the easiest ducks to identify instantly when you see them. They are highly adaptable and do remain in areas even when water levels fluctuate. So it's great to have these species that are very adaptable. If you're not adaptable, then you will very quickly become hungry, and some species would not survive in these very arid and remote areas like Namibia. You also see red-billed teals over at Tau, as well as your yellow-billed ducks. Those are rare sightings, we do find them. So I've got the call here of a female red-billed teal. Has a very typical duck call. Oop, look at its feet. You can see its webbed feet are here, very bright blue in color. We use those webbed feet for swimming through the water, so they're quite efficient and strong swimmers. Spend quite a lot of time in their day, these teals, grooming themselves. And in flight you can see the buff flight feathers. It has a bit of a black stripe. It's very distinctive, or otherwise their wings are all brown. They do prefer foraging also in open fresh water, as I mentioned earlier. I've seen some ducks like your Egyptian geese, if they are not able to get all the food in the water, they will move into open grassland areas. Alrighty folks, let's link across to one of our other locations, see what else was happening out there this morning here live at the waterhole. Oh, we've got some more birds. Have a look here. My goodness, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bird species all in the same shot. We've got marabou stork, yellow-billed stork. We've got a sacred ibis, a Cape vulture, and a black-headed heron. Wow, this is a great little birding spot. Anthony is asking a question: do honey badgers go to the waterholes? Yes, Anthony, I can't tell you if I've never seen a honey badger live at the waterhole. I'm sure on Africam's Instagram page there must be a honey badger somewhere. We probably don't see them as regularly as we see genets, civets and caracal, for example, but Just like all creatures, honey badgers do need to drink a certain amount of water every day, so they will make their way down to a waterhole if they're in the area. If they are causing mischief and mayhem somewhere and come across a pan, they will definitely come down to drink. So Sandy is asking if all ibises make a horrible call, and yes, Sandy, most of the ibises that I know of do have quite awful calls. We all know the Hammerkop call, so the Hardidar ibis call, so I'm not going to play that one for you, but I'll play the call of our sacred ibis, which is just on, there's two of them now on the left hand side of the screen. Not quite similar to that of the Hardidar ibis, but I'm going to find a call for another awesome bird that I've seen once before in West Africa. This is the spot-breasted ibis.
I'm Ralph, and I'm taking you to Sibuya Game Reserve, which is one of the only game reserves in southern Africa accessed only by boat. We'll stay at the luxury forest camp overlooking the Kariga River with an abundance of bird life and animals grazing on the opposite bank. Luxury tented suites set in a riverine forest offers the perfect place for privacy and comfort. Join me on Sibuya and let's experience it together. Even our hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. Whoa. This is action-packed.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a wild earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Expecting some rain sometime soon. You can see it's a bit of a windy day, and we've been very lucky this week. We've seen quite a few rhinos, had some great rhino sightings this week. If any of our viewers know the names of these rhinos, I'd love to hear from you. I know there is a female with a calf that is named, so please, if you do know the names, I'm trying to collect all the names of some of the creatures that have been named on Live at the Waterhole. Please feel free to send through those comments of the names of any of these rhinos that you might know. Looks like a sub-adult, although this individual looks old enough to almost be on its own right now, so it could be a sub-adult and a male, or a sub-adult and a female. Once they turn to the side, we'll probably be able to tell what sex that other individual is. Look at these guys, just having a nice chill in the mud. It's probably the best place for these rhinos to be on a hot day. So we've got a question here from Jerry. Jerry is asking, are there any bird species that share chick raising responsibilities throughout the flock? So Jerry, the most famous birds that I know that do have a chick raising behavior, similar to like wild dogs, where only the alpha and the alpha male and female will have offspring, and the rest of the group will help to raise, is obviously your southern ground hornbill. They are known for raising chicks together as a family. Obviously your pied babblers, so they'll live in big groups between 3 to 15 individuals, and only the main alpha male and female will be the ones to breed. The rest of the individuals in that group will help feed the chicks, defend the territory, and almost act as babysitters. You've also got your white-crowned shrikes, also practice this behavior. Bee eaters, carmine bee eaters, and your white-fronted bee eaters will sometimes nest in large colonies where they'll all just step in. Everyone kind of just helps with the raising of chicks. Some of your woodpecker species in America also have the same behavior. So you'll have multiple breeding males and females, and a whole flock will help to raise and feed the chicks. Ostriches also form a bit of a creche system once they have hatched, so several females may combine their chicks into one big creche, almost like you get nurseries of impala or other antelope, and they'll join together, and a dominant pair will help to guard all of these individuals. Oh, we've just got some info. Thank you for this info on the rhinos here at Founders Lodge. I've been trying to get some info. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 individuals that have been named. So Manu, which is a male, southwest black rhino. And then, of course, we have Mandy, which is a female. We've got Margaret, which is another female, and Rodney, which is a large adult male. So I can kind of... This is probably, so I guess Rodney would be hanging out by himself, and Munu would be an individual. The 2 males would most likely hang out by themselves, and then the females with their sub-adults would normally be associated with each other together. So apparently Margaret occasionally joins her grown son Rodney during feeding times. So thank you very much for this info on our rhinos here over in Founders. Not too sure how many individuals are at Founders Lodge, but we don't always disclose the total number of individuals within a reserve, so there's probably could be some more individuals around. Oh, look at this rhino. He's just lying in the water with his nose in, his kind of face in the water. It's always such a privilege to be able to watch these rhinos. These white rhinos occurring in these open grassland area. So apparently Munu, the one male, is blind in one eye due to territorial injuries. So he did sustain an injury from territorial fights. So those fights between the males can be quite ferocious. They do become quite aggressive with each other, and especially with long horns like this, they do get into quite nasty fights and can cause quite large injuries to each other. Now, I've seen rhinos fighting with each other, and it can become quite aggressive. I mean, white rhinos are more tolerant of occurring in larger groups than black rhinos, for example. Black rhinos, I feel like, are very temperamental. The minute they see another rhino in their vicinity, they get quite worked up, quite aggressive, whether it's another rhino, whether it's humans. Whereas white rhino, at Mabulla, I've seen so many white rhinos together in one area. You can barely count all of them, and they sometimes just feed very calmly in the same area without too much conflict. But then the minute somebody steps out of line, then they can be quite quite aggressive with one another. Oh, look at the sun has just come out so nicely here. It was a little bit dark earlier, but the sun's probably just peeking out from the clouds. This would make a lovely photo here. So we're talking about thick-skinned mammals earlier and how it's mostly your thick-skinned mammals that spend a lot of their time mud bathing and mud wallowing. So your elephants, rhinos, buffalo and warthogs. After they've had a mud bathing serves multiple purposes, not just cooling their bodies down on a hot day like today, but also serves as a parasite removal. So once these thick-skinned mammals have had a good mud bath, they'll go and rub up against the nearest log or tree and hopefully remove as many parasites as they can. Got a question here from Bella. Bella's asking, do calves stick close to their mum for years? So Bella, yes, it will mostly depend on the age of the rhinos, the female. I know the older these female rhinos get, generally the further apart their calving interval will become. But if they're still in good condition and quite young, the calf will stay with the mother for about 2 to 3 years. Then she normally comes into season, and the gestation period of these white rhinos is about 15 to 16 months. Black rhinos normally about 13 to 14 months. And then when the female has her new calf, she will then chase away her sub-adult calf. Shame. Sometimes the sub-adult doesn't want to leave the nest and will follow the mother for quite a few days or even weeks at a distance. But yeah, she will not be happy to have her sub-adult calf with them in the family group once she has given birth to her new calf. So Tia is asking, how do conservation teams relocate them? So Tia, lots of work is always being done in Africa to protect and preserve these rhino species. So there is a big database called NARTIS, and this is where all the data of rhinos, which individuals are in what area, the specific identification markings on their ears, the notches, as well as their DNA is all collected and stored. And then depending on genetics, they might move individuals from one reserve to another. Alright, why don't we go and see what's happening in Botswana today over in Meno-Akwena. So it looks like we have our resident elephant bulls here at Meno-Akwena that have been here most of the week. Seems like this time of day is a perfect time for them to come down and have a drink. I think this group is one bachelor group. Every now and then you see a few newer individuals coming through, but mostly this group has been here at the waterhole most days of the week. Oh, look, a bit of a kind of hostile body language there with this new individual coming through. So we've got a question here from Duma, is asking, do horns of rhinos grow back after breaks? So yes, Duma, rhinos' horns do grow back, very similar with elephant tusks. So elephant tusks continue growing throughout their lifespan, same as with rhinos. Rhinos' horns are made of keratin, so it's a hair or nail-like substance. So if the horn breaks or is trimmed, it does regrow continuously. So depending on the species between white and black rhino, white rhino will normally grow between 3 to 7 centimeters per year because they are larger species, and black rhino will normally grow a lot less. So black rhino will probably be between 3 to 5 or 2 to 5 centimeters per year. Have a look at these elephants. So many butterflies around as well. Always lovely to see these butterflies occurring in these different parts of Africa during this time once the rains arrive. Lots of pushing and jousting between these elephant bulls, all fighting for the freshest water source. It's special to watch these elephants. So talking about butterflies, I had a question earlier in the week about some of the common butterfly species that we might see at these locations or across southern Africa. So I've got a list of some of the butterflies I've been researching, and some of the common butterfly species you can see at some of our Africam locations. Of course, our African monarch butterflies. This time of year you'll also have your swallowtails, your blue swallowtails, citrus swallowtails. I think a lot of these white butterflies that are flying around here at the moment could be the brown veined white butterfly, which occur in larger groups. Then in the smaller groups you'd get the painted ladies, your pansies, your blue pansies, your orange pansies, and of course which are in smaller groups. And then in larger groups you'll also get the common zebra butterflies, which are very small but have interesting trailing feathers, almost like trailing feathers on their wings. So very special time of year. Once the rains arrive, it ignites the life cycle of these butterflies to continue. So I see on the drive Cedric and of course Steve have been finding some very interesting creatures. Steve found a bagworm the other day, which was really awesome to see a female bagworm in her cocoon, and Cedric had an interesting caterpillar landing on his vehicle. So the life cycle of a butterfly is generally the larva or the caterpillar. Once engorging himself and feeding on all these lush green leaves, will become a pupa, and then the pupa develops into an adult, and then of course the adult lays the eggs, and then the eggs hatch a larva, and as the life cycle continues. Some butterflies are only actually a butterfly, or the life cycle of some butterflies only actually lasts kind of ends in the butterfly only actually being alive for about 7 to 10 days, so before the cycle continues. So Ayo is asking a good question. Do elephants vote on herd paths with trunk gestures? Ayo, a very good question, and I wouldn't say that elephants use trunk gestures like us humans use pointing to signal a direction. I think the elephants just start moving in a direction, and if the other elephants want to join them, like if it's these elephant bulls, they'll all move off together. Otherwise, if it's a solitary individual, he'll just pretty much move in whichever direction he feels. But in the breeding herd structure, of course, the rest of the herd will always follow the matriarch. The matriarch has a sort of internal memory map of all the pathways within the area that she has remembered that she's moved and walked across for getting access to feeding areas, waterholes. It's amazing how these elephants have such incredible memories, and it's probably so that they can remember where there was water, where did they find good feeding areas, where is it safe, where is it not safe to cross. That's why elephants have such incredible memories, as well as to deal with all the different social dynamics, as well as interactions within their family groups. Look at this elephant playing with the mud. I think he's probably going to give himself a bit of a splash with this muddy water. You see, elephants will often disturb the water here before they start splashing themselves. Just patiently, quietly watching these elephants. I love watching elephants. I feel like you could watch elephants for hours. I know Eric loves spending time with elephants. I've got a question here about butterflies from Joseph. Joseph is asking, is it true that the smallest butterfly is the size of a grain of rice? So Joseph, I haven't seen the smallest butterfly in the world, but I've seen one of the largest butterflies in the world that occurs in West Africa, a very big blue butterfly with a bright yellow abdomen. Very cool to see these incredibly large butterfly species. But yeah, some of the smallest butterflies in the world belong to the family of the Lycinidae, so the blue, the coppers, or the hair streaks. So the individuals with little hair streaks, and these tiny little species form a subspecies known as the western pygmy blues. Alrighty folks, let's head across to Tau, see what else is happening in South Africa today. It's great to see what is happening at Tau. I have not been to this location for a while. So good to see all the lush green grass that's popping up, lots of yellow daisies. In the distance there we've got our waterbuck that are having a nice chilled beginning to their weekend. We've got our wildebeest that are moving through this area. It looks like it could be a breeding herd. There's some females here. And then of course we've got an impala, a pale impala, enjoying this lush green grass that's available. So Tau has probably completely transitioned since the last time I saw this area. Very nice and green. Nice to see all the grass coming through. Tau sometimes looks very dry and barren through the dry season, so it's always good to see it nice and green. So Damon is asking a good question. Damon says, I'd imagine that they are constantly hunted for those shaggy coats. I guess you're talking about the waterbuck, Damon. And actually, funny enough, I don't think waterbuck are very sought after for their coats because they have a terrible smell. So waterbuck have this kind of secretion from their skin which helps to add a waterproof layering onto their fur. So we were talking earlier about birds and how birds have oil preen glands to waterproof their feathers. So waterbuck have a very similar adaptation, but that oily substance has a terrible smell. So even leopards, I've seen leopards killing waterbuck. I used to manage a lodge in Victoria Falls on the Zambezi River called Zambezi River Lodge, and often you'd have the leopards killing a waterbuck, and they would stash in a tree, come back once to feed, and leave the waterbuck carcass half eaten because of that terrible smell. So I wouldn't say waterbuck are very sought after for their coats. Wow, look at this view. Can see the mountain is almost covered in all these lovely green trees. Everything has come to life. Everything looks lush and green. Wow. Even the trees have changed color. What else is out there today? Yeah, a small wildebeest herd, bachelor group of impala males. I wonder if we'll find any of our ducks out there today. I know it's a perfect habitat for water birds. Often a lot of water birds around here. I think there could be some teals or white-faced whistling ducks just off in the distance there. Looks like our trees. There was a tree somewhere closer to the water, acacia. I wonder if he started growing again. I know the elephants have chomped that tree. Wow, look at this. Just so lovely to see this beautiful place looking green. Also get spur-wing geese occasionally. Oh, we've got a moorhen, a common moorhen just at the bottom of the screen here. Looks like our ducks are dabbling away, very busy. Egyptian geese obviously rule the roost here as well. Lots of pairs of Egyptian geese around. So Ayo is asking a question about waterbuck. Ayo is asking, do waterbuck hang near rivers for escape? Ayo, yes, waterbuck do often jump into water to escape predators, same as kudu and other antelope species. But yeah, waterbuck, they mostly hang out. Their habitat that they prefer is these very wet, green, marshy areas. And it's so interesting how every different antelope species as well as bird species has evolved over hundreds and hundreds of years to occurring in a specific habitat, so that there's animals that fulfill each different niche and that live in every habitat. Otherwise, if every antelope ate the same kind of grass, if every bird fed on the same type of seeds or fish, there wouldn't be enough food to go around. So it's interesting how you get these different families, different family groups that fulfill different niches in the wild. Amazing, so amazing. So Main Event is asking an interesting question about Mana Pools. Main Event is asking, is it true that Mana Pools National Park is the only place where you can see elephants standing on their two back feet? So Main Event, funny enough, this does happen in other areas as well, not just Mana Pools. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to Jack's camp, see what else is happening out there today. So we are here at Jack's camp in Mahadi Pans. And we've got an egret. Looks like a little egret to me. And just as with most of our birds, I feel like everyone is grooming themselves today. Everyone is getting ready for a weekend. Maybe there's some sort of a bird party going on tonight that everyone is preparing themselves for, because most of our birds we've linked across to today have all been grooming themselves. I do like these little egrets. They are a very small snow white heron-like bird with a very slender dark bill. So you can see the blackish legs as well as yellow feet. If you see them out the water, they should have yellow feet. So with a lot of these egrets, you've got your little egret, you've got your cattle egret, you've got your great white egret and yellow-billed egret. So you've got these 4 egret species that are very similar but have very small differences. So of course your little egret, or also known as your dimorphic egret, have a look, black. It's mostly black and white. Cattle egret, yellow legs. In the breeding season, the males do have yellow patches on the top of their heads, yellow bill, and a bit of yellow or rufous on the chest. Your great white egret is the largest of all of these egret species. They have a yellow bill and black legs and are quite bigger and have a slightly different body posture to your smaller egret species. And then your yellow-billed egret, which is very similar to your cattle egret, is a bit bigger than the cattle egret, and it doesn't have any rufous on its body. So yeah, I think once in West Africa in Odzala, I've once got a photo of all 4 of these egrets together in the same photo. I do not know where that picture is. It wasn't a great photo because we were very far away, but yeah, there are some areas where you can find all 4 of these species in the same area. Looks like this guy's got a rather itchy head. So we've got a question from Edna. Edna's asking, are waterbuck better at dealing with crocs? So Edna, crocodiles are opportunistic, so they don't care if it's a waterbuck or an impala or a warthog, whatever it is. If crocodiles have the opportunity, they'll always go for the kill. But waterbuck are, I would say, a little bit more cunning when it comes to dealing with crocodiles. I think they know areas that they can get into the deep, thick water or mud to feed on some of that grass, like a tau, for example. That might be a little bit safer for them to feed rather than going all the way into deep areas where they could be susceptible to then being taken by crocodiles. Oh, did he just catch something to eat? Lots of dragonflies around. Oh, this egret is very itchy. Look how he's using his foot to scratch himself. Imagine not having hands. I think that'll be the worst thing. Imagine being so itchy and you don't have the hands to scratch yourself. So these birds will have to use their feet in order to itch and scratch themselves. Alrighty folks, let's head across to Serengeti and see what other interesting little bird is waiting for us. Wow, have a look what we have here, folks. I think this is a blue-breasted kingfisher. My goodness, I can't remember the last time I saw a blue-breasted kingfisher. Or it could be a woodland kingfisher. Let's just see if he moves. Just want to see the front of his body here. So there's a bit of a difference between the quite similar, your blue-breasted kingfisher and your woodland kingfisher. Obviously your blue-breasted is a lot more prominent in its bright blue colors, and your woodland kingfisher has a lot more brown. Just waiting for him to turn around. I think you do get blue-breasted kingfishers all the way in Tanzania, in the Serengeti. Wow, look at this guy. He looks like he's also fighting a bit of a wind there. So I'm definitely going to go with blue-breasted. He's got a lot more blue color, prominently blue and black, as opposed to our woodland kingfisher that has a grey head. And a lot more grey on the front of his chest. So often that chest can be a giveaway of the colour. But this guy is very, very blue on his neck and head, where you can identify the different species. He's got a black under mandible and red on the top. They're quite a large, chunky kingfisher. Often found in rainforests, gallery forests, as well as thick woodland areas. Mostly in the sub-canopy as well as your mid-understory. They do like to, they're quite shy, so quite shy species, but they'll often feed on insects, little fish, flying insects as well, but mostly your grasshoppers and little insects on the ground. Wow, listen to this guy. Okay, I'm going to play his call. You have to listen to the call of this kingfisher. He's beautiful. Quite different, the call of this blue-breasted kingfisher as opposed to our woodland kingfisher. And he's left us, unfortunately, but thank goodness we got a quick glimpse. So thanks to our zoomies and Mika for quickly bringing us across here to Serengeti to admire this very special kingfisher. We've seen some interesting birds today. We've had some very special bird sightings. This kingfisher, our saddlebill storks, blue-breasted kingfisher, saddlebill storks, swallow-tailed bee-eaters. My goodness, we have really had some special sightings. Our red-billed teals as well. Maybe he will come back. Let's see if we patiently wait for him. So it's very similar to the habitat you would find a woodland kingfisher in, but I feel like your blue-breasted kingfisher, they're a lot more secretive, a lot shyer, a lot more shy than your woodland kingfisher. Where has he gone off to? So sometimes we have our little agama friend that occurs on this little rocky area. This seems to be a resident. Alrighty folks, let's link across to Stony Point and see what's happening over in Cape Town. got some cormorants down here having a morning groom. Just catching up on some questions. Ayo is asking, why do woodland kingfishers perch high to spot beetles? So Ayo, you have just answered your own question there exactly. So most of your kingfisher as well as bee-eater species will sit up on very high branches, nice little perching spot in order to look out for food. They have a similar hunting strategy to that of the lilac-breasted roller, but I'd say that the bee-eaters are a lot more, bee-eaters are very fast and quick in their movement of how they hunt, but your kingfishers are next in line. They're not as quick as your little bee-eaters, but they're still quite fast. And the rollers just flop down onto their prey. Your rollers don't have much strategy in their hunting. They just look, search, calculate, and flop down onto their prey. So these cormorants and the darters will spend most of their mornings out in the water. They will be hunting for fish, so they are very, very well accustomed to this cold water here in Cape Town, and they spend a lot of their morning diving in order to find food. They'll be searching for fish. Look at this guy. I wonder if there's any penguins around or any hyraxes. Essie was asking a question about why birds nest in holes, and Essie, yes, birds do nest in holes for safety off of the ground. So this would be birds that have altricial young, so birds that have young that hatch are completely helpless and dependent on the parents, and they nest in holes in trees in order to keep their eggs away from predators. Unfortunately, snakes can sometimes get into these holes in the trees. And the other day we saw a gymnogene or African harrier, and those African harriers have kind of a double jointed joints that are able to dislocate and put their legs into these holes in trees and unfortunately rip little young chicks out of the nest. But there is a lot more safety for these birds nesting in holes in trees rather than on the ground or possibly in a tree nest. I wonder what this cormorant is thinking. He's also thinking about what's happening out there when he's going to go for his next little fishing endeavor. So this could be...
Join me at Mabula Private Game Reserve from the 10th until the 15th of March 2026 for an exclusive 5 nights for only 6 guests here in the natural, relaxed environment. Explore South Africa's finest reserve here in the Waterberg and enjoy the wildlife and the diverse landscape.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
When the Mara turns green, life surges, the air hums, the earth stirs, and the wild comes alive. Here, the wonder never ends. It just changes color. Every storm, every sunrise, every sweeping vista is an expression of wild magic. Visit the Masai Mara. Experience the magic.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
Out here, every moment counts. As a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind the scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Yeah. Oh, looks like he's just gone to have a bit of a hunt. Maybe he'll come back to the same branch for us. Where has he gone? Praying that he comes back. I thought it was a blue-breasted kingfisher, folks, but now I'm having a look at some more pictures of woodland kingfishers, and I didn't see much blue on his chest. He would possibly also be out of range, so it could just be a woodland, very, very blue woodland kingfisher, although I can't remember the last time I saw a woodland kingfisher that was that blue, but still very special and pretty bird to see. Maybe he is somewhere around, maybe he's landed on another branch somewhere close by. They do occur in pairs, these kingfisher species, and they mostly will hunt insects. Oh, there he is. He's just landed on this same spot he was earlier. So let's have a look. He's very prominently blue on the back of his head here, which some pictures of your woodland kingfisher, they're not so blue on the back of their head. Again, you do get different variants in different countries, so maybe here in Serengeti, this particular variant of the woodland kingfisher is a lot more blue, which looks much closer to the color of your blue-breasted kingfisher, but I did not see a blue breast on him when we saw him from the front side. So they do sometimes advertise by sitting upright, extending their wings to show their very bold wingspan and their vibrant colors. Almost all of Africa's other similar kingfishers have quite a uniform red-orange, not necessarily a bicolor bill. So you can see we saw the color of his bill is black and red. Do prefer dense lowland rainforest, so it's interesting to see this kingfisher here in the Serengeti, because I would not say the Serengeti has much dense rainforests in this area. So Badger Bud has sent through a comment about Cape Town. Badger Bud said, FYI, there is an elephant seal called Bucky doing his mounting at BB Bay this year. He has still about a week before he goes back to sea. His fur has just started coming back, and there's a whole team of people keeping him safe while he is ashore. Badger Bud, thank you for the information on that big elephant seal called Bucky. My goodness, I'm glad that there's a team there keeping him safe and sound. These coastal creatures are always very different to me. I'm not too sure what the movements of the elephant seals would be, but yeah, they are incredible creatures, and it is so important that we protect these aquatic creatures of the ocean. Cape Town is really good at protecting particular species like the penguins on Boulders Beach area. I know Boulders Beach area has been considered a protected area. They are trying to protect this area where the penguins are nesting and feeding. So I mean, the nesting area in Boulders Beach has always been protected as far as I'm aware, but I know there is now an ocean, kind of like say like a halo, or an area that they're protecting in the ocean around Boulders Beach to protect the fishing areas for these penguins. So it's great news. Hey little guy, what are you? I think this woodland kingfisher is having an identity crisis. But as I mentioned, it's really fascinating to me how in southern Africa, a lot of our species are quite different. I mean, woodland kingfishers are migrants, but in East and West Africa, I mean, I've seen paradise flycatchers that are completely white. I've seen paradise flycatchers that are 3 tones, black, white, and brown. So it's kind of one of the first changes that starts to be created when a species starts to diverge and become a different subspecies. First, the color of the feathers changes, then the vocalization or their voice changes, and then they might be reclassified as a new species. He is a beautiful bird, isn't he? Alrighty folks, let's head back across to Founders, see what else is happening in South Africa. So apparently there's quite a few rhino around here, and it looks like there might be a little bit of a hustle and tussle that might take place. The rhino fight club might begin, but maybe they don't want any evidence on camera that they were fighting with each other. They're supposed to be living in harmony, so it's not a good thing for them to be fighting with one another. But generally, as we spoke about earlier, normally if you have females and cows, so cows and calves together, they are a lot more placid. But as soon as you have more than one bull in an area, then there seems to be a bit of politics breaking out. And as you can see, this male rhino is sharpening his horn for the battle. He's thinking, yeah, I'm going to sharpen my weapon so that when these guys are not watching us, I have a good advantage and a nice freshly sharpened horn. Seems to be a popular place for these rhinos to rub their horns up against. It's not the first time I've seen a rhino sharpening his horn on the edge of this rock. It also makes a perfect rubbing post. So Tess sent a comment, I guess, about our kingfisher, saying it matches the flag on screen. So yes, Tess, I think besides green, our woodland kingfisher does very much match the Tanzanian flag. I think the swallowtail beater is probably more prominent, or would be a great bird to share the colors with the Tanzanian flag, because the swallowtail beater has black, blue, as well as green. So very cool colors. Look at him sharpening his horn there. I feel like he's getting some anger management out of this. He's like, while I patiently wait for this fight to begin, I'm going to sit here and sharpen my horn to let out my frustration. The weather seems to be changing quite a lot here in the Eastern Cape. You can see every now and then it gets pretty dark and then the sun comes out. So male rhinos, we were chatting about territorial birds earlier. Male rhinos are quite territorial. They will very ferociously mark their boundaries. They have lots of middens compared to black rhinos. So white rhino will have a lot of middens along their boundaries, and they will quite frequently patrol their boundaries as well as marking their territory on their middens. Oh, what is this? Is this a pin-tailed wider? Oh, yes, have a look on the bottom side of the screen here, folks. We've got a male pin-tailed wider. Whoa, that is so exciting. So a lot of the birds it's a mating season for a lot of bird species at the moment. With the rains come just a flush of insects and birds and the change of season. It's just amazing. It's a very special time of year. So the widers, a lot of the widers and bishops have changed color, ready for mating. Alrighty folks, well, let's give these rhinos some privacy, because it seems like they are not wanting to fight under pressure. So let's go and see what's happening over at Finch, and we will come back here in a moment. So we are here at Finch Hattons in Kenya, and we have a kingfisher, male kingfisher. Nice to have another location that we can actually see fish eagles. We were so busy with our kingfishers and bee eaters today. Now we have a probably a male fish eagle that is also grooming himself. So lovely to see these iconic, or majestic, more like majestic birds of Africa. They really are an icon raptor of Africa, known for their call, their voice, very loud, distinctive call. They are a large eagle, medium to large size eagle. The wingspan is only about 2 to 2.4 meters, so it's not nearly as large as the wingspan that of like a marabou stork we were chatting about earlier, is over 3 meters. And this bird can weigh about 3 to 3.5 kilograms in the big males. Always associated with water, rivers, lakes, dams, as well as wetlands, and that's because of their diet. So they do mostly exclusively feed on fish. They prefer large catfish or tilapia, and my goodness, it's crazy the fish that these fish eagles can catch. They are such seasoned and well versed hunters in catching fish. So Naledi is asking a good question. Naledi is asking, how do young birds learn to catch fish alone? So Naledi, we spoke about earlier how just like, so with birds, it's very similar as with antelope and predators, all young offspring in the wild will always learn how to hunt and basically how to survive in the wilds by watching and learning from their parents. They also have an incredible natural instinct that eventually does kick in as well. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of failed attempts at hunting. Like for example, at Tembe Elephant Park earlier in the year, there was a juvenile fish eagle there, and he was trying to eat a fish that he had caught in the tree, but he hadn't quite mastered the art of, how do I hold onto this tree and the fish and eat at the same time? So it is a trial and error process. And just like at Mabulla, we've watched those young lions there attempting to hunt many times and failing many times before they were finally successful. But eventually that natural instinct, and also very closely watching and observing the skills and techniques and methods that the parents use, does eventually groom them into being efficient hunters. So Pendo is asking, do owls threaten them at night? Pendo, I wouldn't say. Owls would probably stay very far away from fish eagles. So owls are a nocturnal creature, so owls will be hunting and feeding at night. Fish eagles are a diurnal predator, so they'll be hunting during the day. So while the owls are hunting at night, fish eagles will most likely be sleeping. So they kind of have two completely separate shifts. Owls are on the night shift, fish eagles are on the day shift. The only owl that might compete when it comes to food with a fish eagle would be your Pell's fishing owl. But again, an African fish eagle is much bigger than a Pell's fishing owl, so a Pell's fishing owl is not going to mess with an African fish eagle that could also kill that owl. So yes, fish eagles are mostly seasoned hunters when it comes to hunting fish, but they have been known for taking waterfowl, small water birds. I've seen fish eagles taking ducks, sandpipers, plovers. Yeah, they will also take the opportunity, if it comes to them, to hunt smaller birds as well. Look at this guy. You can see that very prominent white patch on his back there. You can often see these African fish eagles perched very majestically on dead trees overlooking the water. They'll spend hours and hours looking for an opportunity to catch a meal. They will soar with their wings in quite a flat plane, so it's easily distinguished from other raptors or birds of prey. They'll usually be solitary or in pairs. They don't occur in large groups, and males are very territorial, so they often use the same breeding area or the same nest 1 year to the next. Normally they'll have these quite messy stick nests. Alrighty folks, let's head across to Lentor, see what's happening over in Kenya. Oh, have a look here. We've got our baboons, our olive baboons, maybe coming down to the waterhole. Seems to be like clockwork. I think almost every day this week we have had baboons at this time. So if you watch Live at the Waterhole quite regularly, I'm sure you will also kind of start understanding what times or seeing what the schedules are of different animals arriving at the waterhole, the birds coming down as well. Oh, this big male baboon is doesn't look like he's in the best mood. He was chasing that female. Alrighty folks, we're chatting about Tembe Elephant Park earlier, so let's go and check out Tembe. Oh, look what we have here. We've got 3 male Inyala that are engaging in, I like to call it the Michael Jackson moon dance. They don't often touch each other, or Tai Chi. I think we've got one of our viewers that calls it the Nyala Tai Chi. So they don't often come into contact with each other, but they will engage in a very kind of interesting posture. So they'll have a very tense posture. You can see this male on the left is in full pilo erection. His fluff and his fur is all sticking up on his dorsal crest. His tail is flared, and he is showing off to these other males, trying to prove his strength, how big and strong he is. We had one individual leaving, but now it looks like there's another big male coming to the party to join in the Tai Chi Nyala moon walk display. Look at these guys. It's almost like your dogs. Have you seen when you have dogs at home that are meeting a new friend? They often, again, I think dogs are a lot more active, but you often get this moment when a dog is meeting a new dog that they've never met before, and they also kind of, their body becomes very stiff, and they like, their heads are up and their ears are like pointy, and they kind of, their fluff is all ruffled, and they're wondering, is this a friend? Can I play with you, or is this guy gonna bite me? Like, what is gonna happen? Like, am I bigger than him? They're like sizing each other up. Oh. Nature can be very entertaining. So Naledi says, do groups watch Nyala dance fights? Naledi, the females, if there are any females around, and if they are paying attention, might be impressed. But ideally it's more to determine a dominance hierarchy amongst the male Nyalas. So once the male that is the most dominant and wins this interesting Tai Chi moonwalking dance, once he has ascertained that he is the biggest, strongest male in the area, then he automatically wins the mating rights for the females. But the females, I see most of the time, don't seem very interested at all in the males' constant endeavors to impress them. So Kessie, yes, so young male Nyala, they will practice their dance moves alone. It's kind of like I feel like it's kind of like singers or dancers singing to themselves in the shower or in the mirror. You kind of practice by yourself, or if you've got some other young males around you, you practice by yourself. Yeah, the true test comes when they reach their sexual maturity, and now they come into contact with other males. And it needs to be at the time of the year when, again, food is abundant, they have enough energy in order to engage in this dance, because it's quite stressful for these males. They do exert quite a lot of energy when they are engaging in this interesting and elaborate Nyala Tai Chi dance. So they need to, it does show a sign of strength, dominance within these individuals, good genes, good genetics. It is very cool to watch these males. They seem to have relaxed now. I'm guessing the male in the middle is probably the victor because the other male just walked off. And I think this male to the right kind of gave up a long time ago. They do all look like dominant males, fully grown Nyala males, all trying to impress the females.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there.
Full name is Maxine Gaines. Best part of the job, gosh, I just love everything about guiding. I love being able to observe animal behavior and animals behaving naturally. So for me, that's by far the best part of the job. And so what we do here at Wild Earth is develop those connections with the people that are viewing and maybe just light a little spark that says, you know what, I want to be involved in protecting this ecosystem.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure. Safari, wine, and waterfalls. The ultimate African adventure. Sip South Africa's finest wines. Experience a world-class safari among Africa's iconic wildlife. And stand in front of Victoria Falls, one of the natural wonders of the world. All this can be yours with Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
A black and white tail, and then of course they've got these rufous brown legs, which the fur is shorter than the rest of their fluff. So to me it looks like they're wearing pajama pants, like tights, brown tights with like a 3/4 pajama pant leg. They're rather fluffy. So Juliet, yes, we were just chatting about this red algae on the water here. I feel like this particular part of the pan, because it's not so visited and not so busy. I mean, the main pan is obviously lots of elephants swim in that water, disturbing the water. But this pan further off to the left hand side is not as well used as the main pan. So because this water might be a little bit more stagnant, that's when you do get a bit of a build up of all these kind of water or aquatic plants that do start growing. In some cases they could be a benefit, but in other cases they could be a detriment to any fish living in this pan. Alrighty folks, why don't we go and check in with our rhinos over at Founders Lodge and seeing if they are still about to also take part in a fighting endeavour. So we've still got our rhinos here. It looks like we've also got maybe some blessbok in the distance. patiently waiting to see. It looked like these rhinos wanted to start a bit of a brawl, a bit of a fight earlier. So we are patiently waiting to see what is going to happen here. So white rhinos are the largest terrestrial mammals after elephant. Male white rhinos can weigh anything between 2,000 to 2,300 kilograms, and they stand at a height of about 1 to 1.8 meters at shoulder height. And they can measure in length about 4 meters. So they're a very large land mammal, famously known for that square lip of theirs, as we spoke about their adaptation for grazing. We mentioned about male rhinos being quite territorial. So male rhinos' range or territory can vary between 1 kilometer squared to over 10 kilometers squared, depending on the area, the habitat, and the resources available. Territories or territorial males may chase off younger males or intruders. And I mentioned earlier they do very frequently mark their territories. They do have quite thick grey wrinkled skins. You can see lots of folds and crevices in their skin there. It's almost like an armored plating for these rhinos. Their skin is very thick. It does help them from being injured by all the vegetation that they might be moving through, especially in black rhino, as well as from being injured by other males while fighting. And shame, I saw a picture on Instagram recently of a male rhino that had been in quite a nasty fight. I think it was a black rhino, and he had half of a horn stuck in his forehead. Oof. I would hate to see what the other rhino looked like. So he was obviously fighting, two bulls in fighting, and while they were fighting, the one bull stabbed the other bull straight into his head and broke his horn off in the other rhino's head. Both rhinos did survive and were okay, but it just shows you how fierce and strong these rhinos are. So dominant bulls will obviously allow females and calves within their territory. Younger males will form bachelor bull groups. It's a bit of a loose group association until they can claim their own territory. So once they've been kicked out of their group, or once a young sub-adult's mother has had a new baby, they'll then get kicked out and form a little bachelor group until they're able to take their own territories. I feel like the weather in the Eastern Cape doesn't know what's happening. It looks like it's cold, but the sun is out. I don't think I'd like to be in the Eastern Cape right now. It's one of those jacket on, jacket off days. So we've got a question here from Lydia. Lydia is asking, how far can a rhino's vocalization travel? So generally between the low frequency grunts and snorts of these rhinos can travel up to a few kilometers across these open savannas, so probably about between 2 to 3 kilometers. They make a variety of high-pitched squeaks, whistles, and squeals. In dense, thick bush, they'll probably only travel about 500 meters. This youngster's still suckling, which is quite unusual because he's quite a big chap. I don't think he should be suckling still. Normally the young rhinos are weaned at about a year to a year and a half of age. And as we mentioned earlier, between 2 to 3 years is when they would start having to think of going off on their own, because the female will have her new baby. You can see this female, her horn is not as sharp as with those males. It's a good way to identify between the sexes. Females often don't have as sharp horns, or their horns are not always as long and thick as the males. So generally females have longer, thinner horns, males have thicker, broader, sharper horns. But again, it does vary from individual to individual. I have seen females with very big horns, like at Mabulla. Some of the individuals there with the longest horns have been females, but then the males, because of fighting with one another, then have shorter, thicker, stubbier horns. Hey girl, look at those lips of hers. Her slobber chops. Very white. So Rachel, good question. Rachel was asking, do rhinos really sharpen their horns or they get itchy? So yes, Rachel, rhinos do get itchy, so they will scrub themselves on rocks. But I have on 2 occasions now seen rhinos sharpening their horns on the tip of this rock here. So the males will often sharpen their horns, especially when they know that there's other males around that they might engage in some fights with. So they want their horns to be as sharp as possible. Oop, look, this wind is picking up. My goodness, when you've gone so far in the Eastern Cape, it is super windy. Alrighty folks, we have a few minutes left, so why don't we head across to Oldonyo and see what's happening in Kenya. Wow, look at this big boy. So we've also got some, oh wow, okay, we've got some eland off to the right and a giraffe off to the left. This looks like quite a large big elephant boy. So earlier in the day, and quite a few elephant bulls here. And if any of our viewers know if this is hooky or wonky tusk, please let me know. It's some of the named elephant individuals that I know we have in this area. This bull was here yesterday, and I was convinced that I've seen him before, but I don't know if he has a name. So, I wonder what he is doing. So if he does have a name, folks, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I think he should be called Notchy, because have a look, both of his tusks have notches in, which is quite interesting to see such prominent notches on this elephant bull. Oh, look at him, he is not chuffed with that giraffe being so close by. Yeah, look at those notches. I think Notchy would be a great name for this elephant. Hey, big boy. Whoa. You see how the one tusk on the right also curves around quite prominently, so it's probably why he uses his tusks so much, and why there's those grooves. It's when he's constantly pulling vegetation through his tusks while modifying its vegetation to feed. Looks like he is in must. He has got some liquid coming out his temporal glands. I think we can call him Notchy. Hey, big boy. Nice to see you again. He's been here at the water, I'd say 3 or 4 days this week I've seen him. He seems to be a regular. So Peter, yes, this is a big boy. Apparently you would not want to meet him in a bad mood. Yeah, I think he could be quite aggressive, this big elephant bull. Hey. Alrighty folks, our time is almost up, so I just want to say a big thank you for joining us this week live at the Waterhole. I will not be live with you at the Waterhole from tomorrow, so I hope you all have a fabulous weekend. From myself, the rest of the Wild Earth team, we just want to say a big thanks for joining us, and thank you for watching. Have a good one, folks.